girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 930. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
Yes, a.k.a. Negative Camera. You know I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to talk about Formula One. There wasn't really much news this week, if I'm honest, you know? But we're going to talk about it anyway. Before doing that, of course, I have to introduce my co-host. I have to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled near our nation's capital, close enough to be highly effective. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace! Grace, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Todd. I'm glad that I dressed appropriately for my new intro music.
Yes, I thought so too. Got a little intro music. I had to, I just totally redid our main intro music.
I like it.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm just trying to shake things up. I mean,
That's right.
It's like jumping off my bike at the last minute and running for the other bike. And we'll get into that.
That's right.
We'll get into that in due time.
You know what you're doing.
Ah, yes. So, Grace, we haven't spoken. You had a couple races there. Your boy Oscar bringing it all home for the big win.
Yeah. And my boy Lando.
And your boy Lando. Things are looking awful rosy over there in your McLaren camp.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good over here.
Yes, they are. Things are looking great in my Ferrari. Oh.
Well, they were, and then they weren't.
Right. I was like, yeah, okay. So maybe not so much.
I don't know. I guess if I was Lewis, I would buy them like rulers or something. Like, I thought you might need these, like a little ruler gift basket or something.
Yeah. You can see him pulling the whole Han Solo thing with Chewie. No, this goes there, that goes there. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I got no answers. I wish I did.
It just cut the margins too thin. I don't think there's really like some like I don't know, great. Don't cut your margins so thin.
I didn't look it up. I think was it Sky? One of them said it was the first DSQ, double DSQ for Ferrari ever.
Yeah.
Oh. That could be. I didn't look it up. That's quite a stat.
How long has somebody been sitting on that? Somebody is like a McLaren fan. They've been sitting on that for a long time, just waiting to use
Yes. Ever since the $100 million fine for McLaren regarding stealing Ferrari's technical manual.
They're playing the Alonso long game, right?
It was a really long game. Yeah.
Been waiting.
Yeah, all those years. So, big news this week in Formula One, Grace. I'd like to say that it was a complete shock. I don't know that it really was. I think everybody was talking about it. But Red Bull have announced this past week that Yuki Tsunoda, it's the age of Yuki, as I'm calling it. Yuki Tsunoda would replace Liam Lawson this week for the Japanese Grand Prix and finish out the rest of the season. So what better place to introduce your new Japanese driver than the Japanese Grand Prix?
I can't wait to see, how this is going to, I can't wait to see how you're going to make this make sense for me because this makes no sense. So go ahead.
Yeah.
This is like bananas. Like it's one of those like, I don't know, somebody says something and you're like, wait, what? Wait, what? What are we doing? Right? Like I just kept coming up with more things the more I thought about like how this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Okay, cool. Good job, Red Bull.
So you got Helmo telling Liam,
goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
There you go. Right. So Liam gets moved back to the RBs. They said that the RB21 is a work in progress, and don't we know that? Because if Max Verstappen can only finish fourth, that car's a handful. And they said that Yuki's veteran status would really assist in developing the car further during the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, and they said that they owed it to Liam to protect him and his career and skills, and that moving him back to a familiar team like RB will give him the time that he needs, right?
Will it, Red Bull? When have you
know.
ever been concerned about anybody's well-being? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I got a thought on that. I'll bring that up in a minute.
Very good.
So what I found interesting is I just love to watch the narratives switch, and I did I offered my arm's length take of it on a YouTube channel, our YouTube channel last week, which I suggested there's a bigger picture here, but 2 weeks ago.
I hope so.
It was said that Sergio was laughing and guffawing at Red Bull because of Liam's poor performance, and Sergio did better than that, and haha. People loved it when Ted Kravitz pressed Christian Horner awkwardly on TV, saying, well, surely this isn't why you bought out Checo's contract to have Liam finish in the back. And that, you could tell Christian wasn't happy with that line of questioning. And so that got the whole interweb buzzing with the sort of gotcha accolades. Liam was castigated as an usurper to Yuki's rightful throne, and Helmut saying, Yuki's changed. That was the narrative 2 weeks ago, right? And then you had Helmut sort of dog whistling that Yuki's changed quite a bit. He did say Max isn't happy, but it's for his best interest too. And Liam wasn't able to deliver immediately, and the team needed a better strategy, basically. Then that narrative sort of changed. Now it's Red Bull is bad. You're killing young drivers' careers. Helmo needs to go. They're lying. They aren't in this to help Liam or his career. They're in it for themselves. Their young driver program is broken and it sucks. What a difference a week makes. If they finally cave in to fan pressure, now they caved in and made the switch, and this will take all the heat off of this conversation. Now, happily, I'm sure all of the interweb commentary will swap back to Jack Doohan at Alpine, I would imagine. Are they going to get the same reaction now?
But you're the team. You should not be wavered by the interwebs.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
You know what I mean? That's not who pays your bills, my friend.
Yeah.
Right? That's always been the case. People will always, that's our job here, right? Like, people are like, oh, what do you know? It's a podcast. I don't know anything. That's why we're here, right? Like, I could just be like, oh, I trust Christian Horner and everything he does. Not very good content, and I don't believe that. So I just think, but Red Bull, all you could say if you were Christian Horner is, I hear what the interweb said. I don't care. I'm running this team, not you, and this is what we're doing, which they seem to have no problem any other time. So I'm just not sure why, well, some people on Twitter said this thing, and now we're going to change everything.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now you care.
Well, it's it's one of those deals. I said that. I said in my video, I said, that to me it's a little bit bigger of a picture. In short, you can go watch the video, but in short, I said you can change drivers much easier than you can redesign the entire car, just ahead of a major regulation change, and that's where they find themselves, at the moment.
But they're going to end up running out of drivers at this rate.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't clone Max. Are you going to put Joss in the other car?
Right.
What are you going to do?
Well, why not? I think you ought to put Helmo in the other car. See what he does.
Wedge him in there. I bet he can get out over that Hans device in 7 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't either. It's not I'm just saying.
Right.
I don't know. If this is your, every time you do bad, we're just going to change the drivers instead of fixing the car because that's easier?
Well, I think they're going to go through. It's not like they're going to every 2 races replace a driver, but I do think that it's in a difficult situation when you think about the car, as I said in the video, when you think about the car over time, it's evolved. It's been an evolution of a car.
Yes, sure.
And that evolution has gotten sharper and sharper on the front end, and Max became very fast with that kind of development in the car. And now I would say that this year it's probably beyond where it needs to be because even Max is struggling, to
Yes, it's gone
dominate,
too
right?
far.
Yeah, it's gone too
Right.
far. So if Max is the best he can do is fourth, there's some serious issues there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you would turn and say, okay, well, so we can't just redesign the entire car from a white piece of paper. We've got big reg changes next year. The reality of it is the car drivability is very complicated. We've evolved it to a point where it may be too sharp. Even Max is struggling to get the most out of it, and he's finishing fourth. You take a young guy like Liam, throwing him in the deep end. What would you expect him to achieve out of a car that's this difficult to drive? Whereas Yuki's been driving in Formula One a lot longer. He's been through evolution and development phases of the RB. He might be a little bit more of a solid, bet at this point in helping us develop the car to where it's a little more balanced, a little easier to drive. And I have to think that's kind of the decision matrix for them.
Except no other team. Now, granted, no other team has a B team in the way Red Bull has a B
Right.
team, but nobody else has ever done this. I think that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be the fact that over all the ages of Formula One, Red Bull's the only team that's just like mid-season, we're going to change drivers.
Right. Except for
So
Williams.
I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know. That seems a little sus.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the comment about Red Bull having a responsibility to Liam, that was met with a lot of accusations that they're lying and they're just doing it for themselves. But it might be worth contemplating just for a moment. There's no doubt that leaving Liam in the seat all year to flounder at the back or in the midfield at best would do more damage than pulling him now, letting him try to shine in a more compliant car where he can make some more inroads, get more mileage under his belt. I don't know. There's something in that. And it's, in some ways, it's also a good bookend for their Honda relationship, with ends at the end of this season, to throw Honda a bone and put Yuki in sink or swim.
So, but why at race 3? So this is what doesn't make sense, right? First of all, this happens. You could easily, if you're Red Bull, say, hey, Liam, he's new. I know he's not a rookie, and everybody's been saying, oh, well, is he really a rookie? But he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Let's give him a couple races. Let's not... We've had 2 weird races, Australia and China.
Agreed.
They're not like other races, and they're tracks he's never been at. What did you possibly know as Red Bull last season that you suddenly now know, and you're like, oh, Liam's out? You knew how Liam drove before, and you knew how well he was going to do in the car, because otherwise I don't understand why you're pulling him now. That's what makes no sense to me. I could see if we get 5 races in, we get to Imola, I know, because the schedule's now all, because then we go to like Miami. It takes a while until we get to a track that's a little more, a traditional track, if you will. Give him a chance. I don't understand. What data has he built in 2 one-offs?
I don't know.
Now you're gonna get rid of
I'm
him?
curious if, do you remember in the last race, they radically changed the car's setup?
Yeah.
And Liam said, they made a lot of big changes to kind of see if this would be the right direction or if that would help. He goes, unfortunately, it didn't. And then Christian made the comment after the race that they were able to harvest a whole lot of data from that race and from Liam and from that car. And I'm wondering if there just wasn't something in that data harvest that told him, I don't think Liam's going to be able to be the guy to get us over the issues this current car has, along with Max. And would Yuki be able a better bet? I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Because they should have that data too, right? We make it seem like
Yes.
we don't know unless we put Yuki in the car. That's not true. That's not true. They do know.
Correct.
Right? They have the ability to say, here's how Yuki drives this current car that we have experience with, because they're our B team. It's not like he's at Williams and we're McLaren and we're kind of guessing at what his data looks like. I can see his data. So they have some idea of what his driver style is going to be like in the Red Bull. We don't have to put him in the Red Bull in order to find that out.
Yeah. There's something that cropped up that made them feel that it was, a bridge too far for Liam.
I think you're trying to make sense out of something that makes no sense.
I could be trying to give him benefit of the doubt when maybe it's just more of a gut feel on their part. Who knows? I kind of feel like at this point, Liam's got nothing to lose, right? When you look at with Alex or other drivers, I mean, at this point, and Pierre, you got moved up to Red Bull, and then after a couple of races, you got chucked back. I mean, now you're almost in the Nick DeVries category, right?
Yes.
So if that's where he is, I say to Liam, you got absolutely nothing to lose if you want to stay in Formula One. You're damaged goods, and you have to pull an Alex Albon or a Pierre Gasly and kill it at Red Bull, at the RBs, in order to find another ride or get another shot at Red Bull. Or maybe, go in there and just kill it and then start knocking on Audi's door in a year or two.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't want to end up at like a Alpine, like a lower mid team. Like that's not much of a step from where he is at RB, right?
Yeah.
If you actually want to go to a front team. I mean, I think the only thing that works in Liam's favor in a way that didn't work for Albon and Gasly is we know.
Yeah.
We know this is Red Bull's pattern. Like when Gasly did it, we were like, what? Oh my God, what's going on? Now we're like, oh yeah, it's been 2 races. You're going to replace him. And then it'll be 3 races and you'll be mad at Yuki and you'll replace him. And then another 6 races will happen and you'll be mad about something else, right? Like we all now know that this is sort of Red Bull's pattern. So I think in that sense, Liam isn't as damaged goods as he would have been in Albon's shoes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Grace. I think this is a mark on the CV, but it's not like, oh my gosh, Liam's career is over. I don't think that. No. I think, if I'm honest, I think when he gets back to the RBs, he probably would do pretty well, because I think that RB is a pretty good car.
Awesome. Yeah,
I think he'll have a good challenge in Isaac Hedger. I think Isaac did great in China. Looks really good. I know he had the off in Australia, and that's unfortunate, but he's a rookie. You can forgive that. I think China was a redemption drive for him. Looked really good. I think Isaac did a great job. For Yuki's for Yuki anyway, on the other hand, I do kind of feel like Yuki could be at the end of the road, and either he makes something happen in the Red Bull, or I think his time at Red Bull may be coming to an end. So I hope he kills it. I hope he somehow rises to the occasion and becomes a serious weapon for Red Bull. He's came in, he was a bit of a hothead on the radio. He seemed, kind of jerkish and all that kind of stuff, and sort of took some flack. And Paul and I haven't rated him incredibly highly, but he has gotten a lot better over time, and I think Helmo's right on that. I would love to eat crow and see him go to Red Bull and then boom, watch him blossom, and think, wow, we were all wrong. Well, some of us were wrong about Yuki. He really has flourished. So I kind of feel like that would be great. I hope he does that in order to either stay there at Red Bull or at least prolong his career, or even make himself a potential property with Honda and Aston Martin.
It's only going to be worse if this never happens for him, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be the guy that got stuck at V-Carbs that never got the opportunity at Red Bull.
Yep.
And Red Bull gave everybody an opportunity, but
yeah, right.
Right. Like, that's not great. So I think in that sense, he has to. I think that what I find, it is, some part of it is Red Bull's narrative, which I also find is weird. Like, Helmut Marko now is like, oh, Yuki, he's the muscle man. Look at him. He's been pumping the iron. He's been looking. We all watched Drive to Survive, my friend. 3 years ago was a whole feature on how he's like pumping the iron now and he hates running, and Franz Toast, makes him run. And we get it. It's not the same Yuki that showed up here, 5 years ago. We also all watched Drive to Survive, Helmut Marko. Why are you now like, oh, he's my man. Look at it, the big muscles. What are you talking about? 2 weeks ago, you were ready to ship him to wherever, and now you're like, oh, he's the best thing ever. Please, what is your narrative? Who's your PR person going on over there, letting this guy just what? I don't get either. I think that all of this is, especially for Christian Horner, who is very skilled at working his narrative. Somehow that narrative in the last 2 years is completely out of control over there at Red Bull in a way that it used to be. Because again, you can all give the BS line that every driver or every team principal gives, right?
Yep.
Some version of we're watching him and we're helping him out and it'll be fine. Give him some more races. Like they're great at this, right?
Yeah.
That's part of their job. They're like politicians, right? They have to be able to sell a little BS in order to get their team where they need them to be. Now it seems like that narrative is out of control at Red Bull.
Yeah.
Red Bull is not helping.
You know, it's head scratching in the sense that you're looking at it and saying, "My gosh, you know, this driver drama and all that kind of stuff." It can be head scratching, but I would also say, if you're new to Formula One, then it's certainly head scratching, and you're like, "Good grief, what's going on?" But for veterans out there who've been watching it for a while now, you know, we kind of know these evolutions of these teams, right? If you go back to, you could go to Red Bull Sebastian Vettel era and see how good the team was, how they were able to put 4 titles together. And then, you know, there's regulation changes and those kind of things in 2014 totally caught the team off guard. They were saddled with an underperforming hybrid engine, couldn't get it to work. They were really off the pace, right? And so we've seen this before with Red Bull for sure. When they evolved a car and then you had regulation changes and that upset the apple cart. You know, we think of Mercedes. You know, when 2014 came out, they hit the ground and they were running, right, with the hybrid. They dominated for years with Lewis, just absolutely pummeled the competition for years, right? Won multiple constructor titles. And then you had the ground effects come in, and they're just gone, right? They just didn't have that. And you remember the whole size zero, no side pods, and they were convinced their design was right. Everything on paper and everything in the wind tunnel and all of that would suggest that the Mercedes, and they've got to develop that car, and you know, even Total Wolff is just dogged determination to make that work because it's got to, and then they end up going back to the different side pods and they've clawed back some performance in this evolution of car, and so they've been on the back foot ever since the ground effects came out, and then we saw the rise of Red Bull again. And so that's interesting. The difference, though, if I'm drawing that parallel, it's not an apples to apples comparison, because in Red Bull's case or in Mercedes' case, they were on the back of big regulation changes. We haven't had that here. These are stable regulations, and this car has almost just evolved itself out of drivability under Rob Marshall and Adrian Newey, but then they left, and now
everybody's gone.
And now this thing is evolved, and Max likes it sharper and sharper and sharper, but it's to the point now that Max doesn't like it. They've almost evolved their way into a bit of a quagmire that you can't blame on regulation changes, which I find interesting. Meanwhile, you've got the rise of McLaren, right?
Yes,
so Rob Marshall's over there, right? And so I think that's kind of a difference. That's what makes my argument a little bit apples and oranges. But there is precedent for these teams. They ebb and flow like this. It does happen. I guess at this point the big question is how much patience does Max have with it?
I don't know. I feel like it ebb and flows, and Red Bull is just like completely mismanaging that ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
Again, we've talked about how, right, if football is any given Sunday, Formula One's the opposite. Any given 10-year period.
Yeah, right. Any given regulation set.
Right. So I get it, right? That it is a lot long-term regulation change, and that's what really affects the dominance of a team.
Yeah.
And if you get it right, you could be at, Aston Martin and get it right and be really successful, or you could be McLaren and get it really wrong, and then you're not really successful, right? That happens. And it's not an any given Sunday kind of scenario. That's not how Formula One works.
Right.
I just think Red Bull is, I don't again, sometimes I'm like, I wish an honest tell-all book would come out of this, right? Like there's
Yeah.
some part of me that's just like, I feel like I'm just missing something.
Yeah.
And I wish like Helmut or Christian Horner or somebody like 5 years from now would be like, and here's what happened.
Yeah.
And I could read that book and I would be like, oh, that's what I'm missing here, because something at that team is just completely fallen apart. And I know that it kind of happened when Didi passed, but at some point now, is that really can't be the only, I don't know. It just seems to have all gone downhill since that point.
Yeah.
And they've never really recovered from it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, Christian has his detractors, but can you imagine being him trying to manage the PR and narrative every time Helmo speaks?
No.
That's a tough job.
I'm not a Christian Horner fan, but I also understand that that's a tough job, right? Like I can have empathy for somebody even if I don't like them, right? Or I don't care for the cut of their jib, if you will.
Right.
So that's
Right.
fine. I get that. I can't imagine trying to manage all of this, and and especially since it has to weigh on him that he's been there, and he's mentioned that like. Day one, like they were showing pictures of like when he first started. I'm like, oh my god, we're all so much younger.
I know.
Back then, right? Like he's the only team principal they've had. Like
I
that's
know.
such a weird, and that he has to also be grooming his future, right? Because it has to be in the place where he's going to want to step down sometime soon or eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I
You
don't
would
know.
think.
It's a tough fight.
It is tough. So let's do a little rapid fire fun, Grace.
All right.
Are you ready for
All
some
right,
rapid
sure.
fire regarding this situation? Here we go. We're going to ask
Okay.
Grace rapid fire questions. Here we go. Number one, Grace, will the swap fix the problem?
No, because the problem is Red Bull,
right.
not your driver.
Okay. Will Liam flourish at RBs and keep himself in contention at Red Bull, or will he have to do an Alex and find another team?
I think I'll have to find another team because it's still run by Red Bull.
Okay. Will Yuki flourish or flounder?
Oh, I want him to flourish. I want all you Yuki Tsunoda haters
Yeah.
and all your slander. I
Yes.
want it to be done, but I'm afraid that's not going to happen. But I have a whole week where I can just pretend like it's preseason in the NFL, and that's what's going to happen, and you're all going to have to eat crow. But,
Yeah.
I
hope
he's not he's not a miracle.
Yeah, I hope I eat crow, but I don't think he will. Now, if Yuki flounders, what will Helmo's response be?
Oh, his muscles weren't as big as I thought.
And two more questions. Have you or anyone noticed that Zach Brown has taken the mantle as the prolific paddock quote machine from Total Wolf, as now Zach has an opinion on everyone's team and driver?
I think Zach has always had an opinion, and it's just now people pay attention because now McLaren is worth paying attention to.
Right.
He's always been
Right.
a venture. He's always been the fix your damn car kind of guy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you're not a successsial team principal if you don't have that in you.
Right.
I just don't think it made it to print.
So far, who does it better, Toto or Zach?
Well, I kind of like Zach's. He's kind of got that American kind of
does.
like. I don't know. Aw shucks isn't the right
Yeah,
word. He kind of has this
he
like
does.
American way about it that he's just sort of like, I'm just telling you like it is.
Yeah.
Here's how it goes.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that about him.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I just think that would, it's just kind of matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm just
to him.
calling it like I see it,
Yeah.
man. Whereas, you get Toto's much more like professorial or thoughtful about it. And, I don't know.
Right.
I just kind of like, because again, I said this early on. I love that they took Ron Dennis, and they're like, we need the opposite of Ron Dennis, and they found Zach
They
Brown,
found Zach.
right? Like,
Yeah, I know.
He's literally the opposite of that sort of very, like Ron Dennis, you thought of every single word, and
Yeah.
everything was spotless, and his tie was always straight, and he was meticulous like that. And Zach's just like, yeah, we got some clothes on. We're good. Let's do this press conference.
Yeah, you
Bring
could
those people in here.
you could walk in Zach's office and be a half-eaten like cinnamon roll on the table,
Exactly.
and
There's papers all over the
paper,
place.
and Ron would lose his mind on that. But yeah.
Just the idea that the space he built, the Paragon,
Yes.
has fallen into this place.
Right.
It's like, whoa.
right, exactly.
I love that about Zach. I love his sort of like down homeness.
Yeah, right.
He brings.
Patron Sport Ian says the buck stops at Susie with Toto. Yeah, it does indeed. All right. Well, let's talk.
So-
Yes, go ahead.
was just gonna say I can't wait. I don't understand. I don't understand why they got rid of Checo. Knowing now what we know, like this is where we are. Oh, why'd you get rid of Checo?
Well, it kind of suggests if Checo wasn't doing that bad, as it turns out.
He was right.
Yeah, he was finishing top 10-ish.
Maybe y'all need shirts instead of Magneto was right. They all need to say Checo was right. We knew it.
Right.
Checo.
Right. I did like the zinger that Bernie Collins said this week. She said that if it wasn't for Max, they'd have the 10th fastest car. Zing.
Shirt. That's great.
Yeah.
That is correct. I mean, GP2 engine. That is great.
Yeah,
Bernie.
GP2 engine. Exactly.
That is excellent. Yeah, I think that Sergio, he should be laughing all the way to the bank, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was brutal.
And it'll go down, I feel like, in the annals of history. Like, the person who was done dirty by Formula One at every turn was Checo Perez. No team has ever treated him well.
I know.
And he's not that bad of a driver, people.
He is. He's a good driver. Yeah. We all
Checo.
like Checo. All right.
McLaren to Red Bull. Never done well. But,
Yeah.
All right.
Let me see. All right. Now let's talk about the F1. No, let's talk about Red Bull's driver program, if I can.
Because we haven't already dug Red Bull's grave.
I know.
Let's dig it a little deeper.
Let's do it some more, man. I gotta.
Cool.
Let's see. Let me look here.
Because this to me is honestly, where it's going to show up. I think what works in Red Bull's favor is scarcity. I think that is the only reason this also works for them.
I agree. Gosh, where is this?
Well, look faster, Todd.
I am. I'm trying. Okay, here it is. All right. Red Bull driver program. So a lot is being said now. Not the week before. The week before, nothing was being said. It was that damn Liam. You got to get rid of him. But now that they've cut him, now it's about how bad their young driver program is, and how they're destroying young lives and careers, etc., and how their program has brought them mediocrity since Max, etc. So I thought, well, okay, let me try to be balanced here. Max is a rare and generational talent.
Yeah, you're right.
And while people who aren't fans make a host of reasons and excuses to why he has 4 titles, the simple fact is, among team bosses, other drivers in the paddock, longtime F1 press corps, he is a sort of once in a 20-year type of generational talent. He just is. And I think we have to recognize it. You can hate him all you want, okay? But he is a generational, otherworldly talent. He's a sublime singular driver.
I can do both of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I can both say he's generational talent and dislike him.
Yeah, and I think...
Although he has 3 cats, I can't dislike him too much.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you can hate him or whatever, but regardless of that or any bias you may have, he is sublime. He's an incredible driver. The program suffers in that the car evolution is such that Max is one of, I'd argue, very few who can make that type of car work for him, as we've seen 5 other drivers, good drivers, struggle to make inroads with that car, right? On varying levels of success. As such, trying to find the next Max is high on everyone's list, not just Red Bull. And Mercedes feel like they have it in Kimi, right? Yeah. McLaren feel like they could have it in either Oscar or Lando, right? Ferrari may feel like they've got it in Charles Leclerc or even Ollie Behrman, right? I think Lewis is a whole different exercise for Ferrari.
Yes, that's right.
But I think in Lando or Ollie Behrman, they feel like they might have it, right? But does Red Bull feel like they have the next Max in Liam or Isaac?
No.
That's a tougher question, isn't it? And that's what most people are suggesting when they speak about Red Bull's program not working. You got, Toto very happy, excited about Kimi. Zach very happy about and excited about Oscar Orlando. You got Ferrari excited about Charles. Lewis for different reasons. And then you got Ollie Behrman, who had a great drive in China. So they're happy about it. But over at Red Bull, they're stuffing their drivers back in RB. And they're bringing up a guy that they didn't pick. right? And I think that's when you hear people criticizing the driver program, that's kind of why.
I mean, I think the thing is one, and this is where I go back to scarcity, right? Because if you had 10 people and they came to you and they said, here's this contract, and you thought, oh, the contracts are all kind of the same, I'm not going to go to Red Bull, right? Because they're terrible. They're terrible to the drivers. I have all this evidence, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why would you do that? And it's only because sometimes you don't have 10 options in front of you. You have one, and it's Red Bull, and so that's what you got to do.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I had the same thing in my notes, and I was thinking that surely the team could have had a shot at Oscar, Kimi, or Ali when they were in the junior program and young. And I'd argue that most likely they did approach him. I don't know. But let's consider what these young drivers are being coached by their management. Right? Red Bull has delivered champions, no doubt, but they are ruthless in their approach under Helmo. Daniel Kvyat, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez, Daniel Ricciardo, Nick DeVries, Carlos Sainz, Liuzzi, Dornbos, Christian Klein. You can go back. There's 10 drivers that have been.
And these are people we know about.
Yeah. You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean too, right? Because what happened in the locker room, we don't know about.
Right.
So out front, we know these 10 drivers that you just named off the top of your head had a terrible experience at Red Bull. So what don't we know about?
Right. And those are all 10 drivers who struggled under the weight of their program. Even Scoot Speed, there's 11, right?
Yeah.
So you've got all of these drivers, including Scoot, who really struggled under that program. And given that track record, would a manager want their young driver, Phenom, to sign up for that? No. Has Helmo's draconian approach made their program less appealing than others? Surely Toto is as ruthless, but if he is, he doesn't show it via his driver program or in public, quite like Helmo does. Helmo, no, the guy's shit. Many suggest that while Horner was under fire last year and this year, maybe it's Helmo who should think about retiring. And if so, who would you replace him with as the head of your young driver program, a kinder, gentler Red Bull young driver program? I have a humble suggestion that you should hire Mark Webber. He's a Red Bull veteran.
I once remember, maybe 20 or so shows ago, somebody said, you know what they should do? They should get rid of Helmut Marko. And the other two people that were on that show with that person were like, Helmut Marko, why would we get rid of him? I don't know.
I'm not saying I would get rid of Helmut. I think he's done great stuff. But I'm saying
he can be both. He can do great stuff, and they should get rid of him. Yeah. It's not one or the other.
But I'm saying that a lot of criticism, a lot of people saying he should step down, right?
I think
I'm not saying that's how I feel. I'm saying that's what I'm reading.
I'm just saying that I think the thing is that what you see is different is the way they talk about their drivers publicly, right? So what you want to see is every driver, right? We're all human. We want our bosses to say to us, gee, Todd, that was a great job you did today, in some way or another. Whether that's like you get a bonus at the end of the year, you get an attaboy, you get to present at a conference. I don't know, right? There's
you get a carton of smokes.
Hey, smoke up, Johnny!
That's what you get.
Exactly. So Toto, even if he doesn't, so I think it's easy to say, I have Kimi Antonelli, he's great. Any of us could be like, he's great. Woo, I'm excited, he's great. What it is when it's somebody who is not Kimi Antonelli, who is 2 steps down from that, and you're like, this person is also great. They all want to feel special. We all want to feel special, right? Like, so what doesn't happen is it is like, unless you're Max Verstappen, which is none of us, you're not great. Well, who wants to sign up for that?
Right.
You want to feel special. You want to feel like your boss of all people wants you to be here, wants you to show up, and wants to care about you. And that's what you get from the other team principals, whether it's Fred Vasseur or Lauren Meckies, right? You feel a sense that they're like, these are my guys. I'm behind them. This is my team. These are my engineers, and these are my drivers, and I'm going to fight for them. And you get none of that from Red Bull. And that's such a difference. And it has to be when you're deciding if your driver is going to go work for this team. I think it's the first season of Drive to Survive when Ricciardo was like, I'm going to go to Renault over staying at Red Bull,
Yeah.
which makes no sense on paper, except it makes 100% sense.
Yeah, right.
Because they were terrible for him.
I feel like, and I hate to be a big conspiracy. I just think all of this is a bigger knock-on effect when Didi passed. And the dynamics internally and politically, I think there's a real difficult dynamic that Christian has to navigate with Helmo, and Helmo's trying to navigate with Christian, and the owners in Austria, and the owner in Thailand, or wherever it is. I think there's some real dynamics that's creating a very high level friction and oppression that is difficult for all of these people to manage. And I think everyone's trying their best to keep that away from Max and to put on a happy, shiny face, and everything is going to be okay because Max is sublime. And it's all very, very confusing. It's all something that can only be redeemed by fire. There you go.
I feel like there should be something. There has to be some, like, right, the quote is always, Formula One isn't a finishing school, right?
Yes.
And I get that. I'm not expecting them to handhold. I'm not saying that either, or give everybody participation trophies or whatever somebody's going to throw at me, right? I don't think that's the answer either, but I think that you have to do something to support humans, and that if you see Liam out there and you're like, you can't just run a driver on talent. That isn't what they do. You're just not running on instinct. You're pouring over data. You should have a driver's coach that says, you see right here, you're losing time. And here we go. I'll show you a video of here's how you drive and here's how Max drives. See how Max runs this turn smoothly and you're doing this, right? Like, who's pointing this out to them so that they can develop and learn? Because they're not running on instinct. That only gets you so far. And at this level, that's not enough.
Well,
right?
and I agree, Grace. I'd argue that as you get into Formula One, it's radically different than F2, F3. And when they get in there, that's a whole different beast in a level of power that they've never driven, right? To that point, when you get in there, that's one thing if you're jumping in an Alpine RB, a Stake, or whatever, but you're jumping into this RB21, which even Max Verstappen can't go faster than P4.
Right.
Right?
So, and it's not your teammate. It's not Max Verstappen's job. It's not George's job. It's not your teammate's job. You hire people you hire some Paul Charsleys. You hire people whose job is to help you drive this car better, right? Like, and you help the drivers see where they have issues, as opposed to just what Helmut Marko always makes it sound like, well, we just threw him in with the Sharks so we could see if he could swim.
Yeah.
That seems terrible, right? Like, that can't possibly be how any team runs their team at this level, because it's like the jump from college to NFL. It's like the jump from, Moto 3 to Moto 2. It's a huge change. And so you can't all of a sudden just expect that somebody who's successful at one level is just going to be, fine, I can do this. That nobody can do that.
Right. See,
LeBron, we all talk about how LeBron James is this great talent. You know what he's in? He's in the gym every single day shooting the ball, right? Talent only gets you so far.
Yeah.
You have to be practicing. You have to be thinking about it. You have to be improving. You have to be tearing down your shot and building it back up again.
Hashtag LeBron sucks.
No, I don't. I'm just saying, like, the greatest thing is that, what is the saying? The more I prepare, the luckier people seem to think I am.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're putting in this hard work.
Luck equals preparation when preparation meets opportunity, Grace.
That sounds great.
Isn't that great?
So I just think that, the team could be doing something to support these drivers. They don't even do it with their words, which are free, let alone paying money to get them help and support.
Right.
Would it kill Christian Horner or somebody to just say, hey, we got this kid and we're really big on him?
Well,
look at all the stuff Toto says, right? Like, he says nice things.
Yeah, almost to the point of not saying nice things at all about George.
I know, right?
Poor George.
Like, what about me?
Yeah.
So
what am I, chopped liver? Hey, Patreon supporter Sir said, how about Jos Verstappen? He's a touchy-feely kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
If you thought Helmo was bad, if you put Jos in that, he'd leave Liam at a gas station for doing poorly. He'd make him walk all the way home across Europe.
And the thing is that for some people, there's a place for that. Some people thrive in that kind of a situation, but some people don't.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
right.
have to be dynamic,
Yeah, you do.
You can't raise all your children the same and then be pissed when they don't all act the same. Right? They're not. They're different personalities.
Different people. I agree. I also think part of the thing, I think the FIA needs to look at this whole testing thing. I know they were putting young drivers in 2-year-old cars and just pounding out laps and laps, and the FIA clamped down on that. And they said that, that's wrong. And I get it because it's about cost and the cost cap and testing. And, they could just run all this testing and the rich teams could do it and the smaller teams could. I get all that. I guess what I would say is realistically, how can these teams invest millions in young driver and not develop them for F1 except for driving in F3 and F2 in sim work? It's a different beast altogether. And if the teams can't test their current cars, then testing outdated cars for your young drivers could be expanded to a young driver program. And the FIA could do a managed and programmatic approach to that testing, instead of just saying, we're only going to, for photo ops, or I don't know what, I think maybe they have limited running, but they should expand that program considerably.
You have to do something. You can't just, you can, but you can't just fire people and then not give them, new job training, right?
Yeah.
That's the humane thing to do, right? If your job is being replaced by a robot, well, I'm not just going to kick you to the curb because of this robot. I should be helping you
learn to
find
code.
a way to find new employment. I don't know, right? There should be some way of picking you up so that you're not just laying in a gutter because your job has been replaced. It's the same idea. You can't just say, well, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
So what are we supposed to do? Because you're now getting these kids, literal kids, and they don't know because there's nothing that's prepared them along the way for this.
Yeah, this is a different beast. Yep.
And so how do you get them that experience? I understand it's too expensive. You can't. So then what? What's your alternative? You can't just. It's not constructive criticism. I can't just read something you send me, Todd, and say no. I have to say no. What about something like this? No. Did you think about this? No. How about this idea over here? Mm-hmm. That's constructive, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be a constructive process, and I'm sure there is a large part of that goes on in the program. But all we see on the outside looking in is just. It's like us Gen X. It's the way we were raised, right? Oh, you don't know how to swim? Here, just shove him in the deep and say, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is that, how they solve that? Oh, they say something.
Yeah.
They say, you put out a presser or you have an event and you go, oh, here, look, we're going to show you what we're doing with our young drivers. Look at this. Isn't this really nice? Look at all this shine I'm getting out of all these nice things I'm doing, right? They could tell us.
Right. They could. All right. Figure it out, Red Bull. The world is watching.
Throw them in. It's fine.
Throw them in. All right. Hey, the other talking point this week is the return to V10s. You might remember we mentioned that a few weeks ago that the FIA was really keen to bring V10s back using full biofuel. Well, the FIA contemplates the return to V10 engines using biofuel. You would think, I've got a sound bite that.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Yes, you'd like to think that most folks would be in favor of the epic sound of a mighty V10 era, but not everyone thinks it's a great idea. Oddly, the man you'd think who would welcome the return of the V10 the most would be the man on the grid who raced and won a title with V10s. That would be Fernando Alonso, but he's not. He's
the opposite.
He is. Here's what he had to say. Somebody's bought him off. He said, somebody's paid him hush money.
Honda
did it. That's right. He said, quote, obviously I love the V10 era and the V8 and the sound of those cars we all miss. We're in a different world now. Technology has evolved, and now we have incredibly efficient engines that use about 1/3 of the fuel we used to. We can't just go against our time and our hybrid era. We cannot forget how efficient the cars are now compared to the past. This is something very positive that we have. That sounds exactly like a Honda press release to me, who's getting ready to come in with a V6 for Aston Martin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hate to say that. But Fernando's not the only one. We can't stop there. No. Total Wolff himself, the Total Wolff.
Get down.
He said, we look a bit silly as Formula One when we attract people like Audi and offer great hybrid engine with sustainable fuels and then suddenly say that we only want to keep it for 3 years and not 5. There you go. Now,
There you go.
before you jump on the bandwagon and say, well, gosh, Fernando and Toto are right, Lewis Hamilton says you're wrong. And here, now, the advocate for the return of V10 is none other than Lewis Hamilton. He says, quote, if we can bring back the great engines and meet the sustainability targets, why not? It's interesting because they said that when we went from the V10 to the V6 engines, it was done to save cost. In the end, it cost a lot more money to make the V6 engine work and make it sustainable with all the different batteries we've used. Maybe we should focus on sustainable fuels that would be better for the future. It's no secret that the V6 engine has never sounded great. I remember the first time I went to a race, it was in 1996 at Spa-Francorchamps, and I remember Michael Schumacher coming through that first corner. I was 12 or 13 years old, but my rib cage was shaking like never before, and I was instantly hooked. It was the most amazing thing I've ever felt or heard, but we've lost that over the years, end quote. Lewis, I couldn't agree with him more, sir.
I mean, there's a total difference. I mean,
Totally.
again, I remember, right, like going before the race, I was like, and then when Flip and I went a couple years ago to Montreal, and I was like, oh, we better have good ear protection. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
So,
Right. Like,
yeah, I hear that track.
Yeah. You know, you remember my screeds back in 2014, 2015, where I went on this long screed and I documented where instantly when they came out with the new hybrid engines and the fans went ballistic about how terrible they sounded, and they were going to put trumpets on the and then they were thinking about putting in fake engine noise and speakers and all this crap.
Like with the electric.
Yeah, they were getting all these ideas, and the fans were just apoplectic about the change in the sound, and all of the press, even the press corps, started carrying water for F1 and calling it, well, I don't know why everybody's so hung up on the engine noise. And I went on this big screen. I said, no. You don't get to change the word. An engine makes a sound. A noise, when you use it in that context, is a pejorative. And they were constantly saying that it was, the noise of a V10 or, V8 and blah, blah, blah. Why are we making such a thing about the noise of it? It's not the noise. It's the sound. It is the sublime sound, the singular sound of a V10 or a V8 or a V12 for that matter, right? And they changed the whole narrative and tried to cram that down on us like, oh, those engines are noisy. Don't you love these flatulent V6s? No. So there you go. I agree with Lewis. While I understand their points, I do. You have to follow the money here, though. And teams already have a lot of R&D sunk into the V6, and starting afresh isn't what they'd like to do so much as evolve what they have, and that includes any performance advantage that they currently perceive they have with their current engine.
Right.
You see how that works?
Right.
They don't want a wholesale engine change because right now the Mercedes lump is good, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you change an engine format, you run the risk of missing the mark. And if you do, you could be stuck with that underperforming engine for the duration of the regulations, given the engine freezes. And Mercedes knows this all too well as they led the entire field in 2014 and won multiple back-to-back championships because their engine was miles ahead of the competition while Red Bull was stuck with the Renault, right? And there was no changing it. So if F1 wants to actually shake up the entire grid, then by all means, change the engine regulations to V10. But if they don't want to do that, I remember when I was at Ferrari's headquarters in Italy, and we were doing a tour, and we were having lunch at the Cavallino, and I had this wonderful conversation with one of their engineer designers.
Yeah.
Super nice guy, British national. He was there. I won't name him. But anyway, really smart guy. And we were talking about, at that time, it was just before the V6s, and they were even talking about 4 cylinders, right? And we were talking about the engine, and he said, if they're going 4 cylinders, it's just half of our V8. I mean, so the reality of it, it would be easier to do that than to do a whole new design V6.
Right.
So along that thread, I would say, well, then change the engine regulations. If they didn't want V10, they could just change it to V12, a 12-cylinder, which would just be half of their current or double their current engine. They already know how their current engine works and all that, so just make it a V12 and you're done. Easier said than done, I know.
Problem solved.
I know.
I like it. Let's, put Liam back in the car and we'll just...
I agree, because Yuki's never going to get on top of that V10. He didn't have the muscles.
It's a good thing that Stefano listens to this podcast because we've just solved every
there
problem
you go.
he has
That's
now.
right. Stefano, just make it a V12.
Welcome.
They just double the current V6 and you're good to go.
Yeah, your check's in the mail.
That's right.
Good job.
Hey, finally in the news, I don't know what Larry's doing over there at Aston Martin, but they're going to sell part of their F1 team, folks. Let's see.
You mean Lance Stroll is finally having the season of his life, and they're going to sell part of the team. He's
Poor
finally,
Lance.
20 years later, and
I
Lance
know.
is like, hey, I have the most points for this team.
I know.
And now you're going
I
to
know.
get rid of it. Yeah,
I know.
Part of it.
It's crazy.
I mean, who had that in their fantasy team?
Yeah,
Not
nobody.
me.
Nobody.
Lance Stroll. If you were behind him, this was your year.
That's right. Let's see. Okay, so this is right out of Autosport. So hat tip Autosport on this. Said the article at Autosport said, Aston Martin is set to sell a stake in the Aston Martin Formula One team in order to commit an extra £52.5 million into the car business. The company cut 170 jobs last month after fewer cars were sold in 2023. This was put down to production delays, and it eventually led to debts of over £1 billion. Stroll's investment has been done through his U-Tree consortium, which bought a stake in Aston Martin 5 years ago.
Brought a stake. Different.
Yeah. Hey, you guys like T-bones?
Hey,
Yeah.
we got those.
We got those. Got filet. Anyway, 5 years ago, and the share will now rise to 33%. And this is what Larry said, quote, I'm pleased to clearly demonstrate my unwavering support and commitment to Aston Martin. Since 2020, my U-Tree consortium partners and I have invested around £600 million into the company. This proposed investment further underscores my conviction in the extraordinary brand and commitment to ensuring Aston Martin has the strongest possible platform, creating long-term value while reducing equity dilution via this premium subscription, which should greatly reassure shareholders as I again increase my long-term ownership in the company. End quote.
Wow, that was a lot.
There's your answer right there.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. Your
He just Tommy Hilfigered it. That's what he did, man.
How do you spell U-Tree?
U-Tree, Y-E-W space T-R-E-E, U-Tree Consortium.
U-Tree. Okay.
Do U-Trees grow in Canada?
I don't know. Apparently so. I mean, maybe that's what grows out in the wilderness where Checo Perez has to walk around in Canada, right? Like,
Right.
out in the wilderness on the far side of the track by the water.
Wasn't that the name of one of Jacques Villeneuve's album, the U-Tree?
Oh, U-Tree?
It was sort of like the
Joshua
Joshua tree, but it was just called the U-Tree. It's just a black and white photo of him with a black hat on in the middle of a Canadian, forest with a U-Tree.
U-Tree.
I don't know.
U-Tree. Okay, I don't know either. I'm here for that.
All right, well, I'm done with that story. I'm done with
All
that.
right, well,
I don't know
Larry,
how
just
Larry
remember,
rolls.
Your son is doing well.
Yep.
And I feel like I need to diagram that last sentence to figure out if your investors really are doing well or not.
That's true, Larry. And I would also point you to the Heart of Racing Valkyrie program and the GT3, which is doing really well, too. So, careful with that axe, Eugene. Okay, let's do some Alvin's Cats, shall we? Because that's what we tend to like to do. Oh, yeah.
Not good enough, damn it! Not good enough!
You like my bass? You like it? Get in there, Lewis.
Nice, Ron.
Woo! Alvin's Cats.
That's quite the gamut of
It was, wasn't it?
quotes there. That was really good.
Yeah.
I like that. You did a little bit of
Little everything. That's what Alvin's Cats is all about, right?
That's right. Yeah. All that's missing is Jensen Buttons. I don't know. You tell me.
Right. Next time I'll do that. All right, so Grace, we know right up front, what do we have?
Controversy.
In Coda. We've got controversy in Coda. I know.
It was great. So the MotoGP race was in Austin this past weekend, and it was wet. It rained a lot of the time, and then so on Sunday though it was drying, and then during the Moto2 race it started to rain, and so that was problematic for everybody. And so the race starts, and we're all just watching, and they kind of go into the little driver theme intro, right? Just like they do in Formula One, and the George, the whole thing. And they get like 2 drivers in, and it just all of a sudden stops.
Right.
And so and they cut right back, and it's like everybody's just running, and we don't know why everybody's running. And so in the moment, you're just like, sitting there relaxing, and all of a sudden, it's chaos is broken out. And you're like, what is going on? So, I think that it was quite funny. And so it turns out that you can change between a dry bike and a wet bike up until like the last second before you have to start your warm-up lap. And Marc Marquez knew that if 10 drivers run off the track, they can't start the race. They have to red flag it. So he just takes off. But all you see is just drivers. You come back from the little MotoGP song, and everybody's just running. So it was just chaos. But it was just more the fact that it was just like, it just happened to be when they cut away, and then they cut back, and there's just running. And it was funny because they had Kevin Schwantz was the announcer this weekend, former MotoGP champion, and he was like, they were lined up on the grid, so I'm just leisurely walking back to the commentary box to do the next part of my job, and all these riders just are like rushing me, and it's just like, I'm like, oh God, national treasure Kevin Schwantz, don't hurt him. Right?
That was great.
It was a lot. It was crazy, but in hindsight, it made sense, right? Like what was going on. But it was just that in the moment, it was very like, why are there people running? And poor Maverick Vinales was like, because it's just like in Formula One, right? They have the guy in the back with the green flag, and the guy at the front runs the green flag, so that they communicate that everybody's ready. And so they call it off because Maverick Vinales can't get the bike started. So he quickly gets the bike off. And just as he's ready to get back on, all the riders go running off. It was just chaos.
It was, totally.
And you have all the further back riders, the Alpines, if you will, are just like, what's going on? We're on the slicks, right? We get to start, right? They have to go to pit lane. So it was a bit of a controversy, if you will, and a bit chaotic, but it made for an interesting race. Thank you very much, Marc Marquez.
Yes. Does anybody have a name of Marc Marquez? Well, Marc has something for him. Marc put him out of that race.
Somebody does have something for Marc Marquez, and it's called track adhesion.
That's right. That's right. Ambition over adhesion is what Martin...
That is correct. But I will say also, so because we went to Aston last year, so... it's just like in Formula One, right? Like they show, I guess basketball does this. So we watch the NFL games, but you can watch the whole feed. So you can see like what they do at halftime or what they do in commercials, right? You can watch like the whole thing. And so you can do that in MotoGP too. So I was like, we'll just watch the whole thing because we were there. So it's kind of fun to see what they're doing this year as opposed to what they're doing last year when they're not on the track.
Right.
And so they had the riders playing football, which... First of all, hilarious because they kept calling it NFL, right? Not football because football's soccer. So I get that.
Right.
They call it basketball and NFL. And then the announcer, who's British, keeps referring to it as NFL ball. Have you ever thrown an NFL ball before? Which I found hilarious, right? We just call it a football. It's not an NFL ball.
It's not an NFL ball.
All right, we're with you there, right? And so they're trying to show the guys like how to throw the NFL ball. And so, and they're having, not very good, like a lot of them are doing the tip over tip, lobs, and they're not really good at it. And so they show Alex Marquez, and he's kind of like tossing, kind of okay, right, the football. And then Mark shows up, and Mark is just like, all Mr. Confidence. And so the announcer's like, you've played NFL before, you've done this. And Mark goes, I've never played before, but I believe in myself. That, my friends, is the quote of the day.
Oh, that's good. That's almost as good as, no, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Right. Why do I limit myself in anything I do?
Because I believe in myself.
Right?
That's right.
He just rode up there with so much hubris. I just was
right.
like, that's great. He doesn't know what he's doing at all, but he believes in himself, and that's great. I did also want to say, bringing it back to Formula One, I haven't been on for a couple shows because, we had some races. And before the first race, they did a Formula One, F1 TV did like a roundtable with the rookies, right? And they had Laura Winters, and she interviewed the rookies. And I think I had two favorite highlights from that. One is why Jack Doohan is a better person than I am. So they're talking about like how they got into Formula One and like their early steps, and Jack Doohan is like, oh yeah, Michael Schumacher bought me my first car.
Yeah, first car, yeah.
They're like, Michael Schumacher? Michael Schumacher bought your first car? Oh my God, Michael Schumacher bought your first. Now, I would have been like, yeah, you know what? Mick Schumacher's named after my dad. Put that in your pipe, my friend. Right? Like, I totally am not humble enough for this sport. I'm much more of the Marc Marquez, I believe in myself, than Jack Doohan, who was just like, oh yeah, Michael Schumacher. Yeah, we've met. He bought me my first car.
Right.
Yeah, I think they've met. It was just pretty great that he was just sort of very nonchalant about the Michael Schumacher bought me my first kart bit. And I loved how much both that Isaac Hadjar and how much fun they made of him for his love for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, right. He's such a fanboy.
I love that was so cute, right? Like, because I'm sure that's how a lot of like the Lewis Hamiltons felt about Michael Schumacher's, right? Like, there's always this like, you were the guy that was on my wall, right? Like Sebastian Vettel to Michael Schumacher. I had your poster on my wall. And the fact that he was just like, oh my God, it's Lewis Hamilton, I was like, that's so endearing. I love that you were just so like beside yourself. Yeah. And then all the other guys were like, yeah, nice. You and Lewis Hamilton. So
yeah, you and Lewis.
I love that story. I love that Lewis is kind of like, well, Isaac's my boy now. This is great.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I liked, if you guys haven't, you all know I have an affinity for all the unboxed videos. And I want to say that Williams continues with the Carbano content. I'm here for it. Everybody that is Carlos Sainz's teammate, it's always great content. It's kind of like Sebastian Vettel. It's always going to be great content. But Carbano is great. Yeah. So they did a bit in Australia on the boat, on the yacht with snakes. Great. If you people haven't watched this is great. Because first of all, I love that Carlos Sainz's cousin/manager is giving him crap. Like, it's like... It's like taunting him like a cousin would do, like a sibling, right? Like, watch out for that snake, right? Totally like off camera taunting him. And that neither Alex nor Carlos are really into the snakes, but yet they're still kind of like jibing each other about it. And so it was pretty great. Meanwhile, I love the snakes. They were so cute. I'm like, and they're all like, oh, is it going to bite me? I'm like, oh, you're fine. It's a constrictor. What are you worried about, right? So,
well, they know Australia's reputation where everything that crawls, slithers, or flies can kill you.
Well, the team's paying a lot of insurance for you, so they're not really going to have you get bit by some viper. But I just thought it was so cute. And then they brought out like the frilled lizard, and I'm like, oh, can I take him home? I would have put him in my little pocket. He was so cute. And then he's like, I don't want to touch him. Thanks. I'm like, oh, I'd touch him. Hey, he's my new friend. So. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. So if you aren't watching the Carbano content, you're missing out because it's really great watching the two of them together.
Yeah.
Enjoying it.
It's good. You ready for some no shit headlines?
I'm ready.
All right. First one up, how Alonso and Bortoleto can be F1 rivals in a unique driver management deal.
Because Alonso's his manager, right?
Yeah, this group that Alonso, A14, is managing Bortoleto. So there you go.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Somehow I missed that in all the Bortoleto hype, so I didn't know that. So there you go. If you didn't know that, now you do. Yeah. Next up, Toto Wolff to skip Japanese Grand Prix. He's skipping 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix in Japan. What's he got against Japan? That's what I want to know.
He's afraid of Yuki's success. That's why he's not
going. Could be. Or the cherry blossoms. I don't know.
They were here for like 3 days, so I hope they last longer.
Right. Let's see. Oh, F1 star told he's next to lose job despite Martin Brundle's chat with driver's dad. 3 of the headlines out of here, and I didn't know it until I went and read the actual stories. 3 of the headlines, 3 different publications, all quoting Ralf Schumacher, for crying out loud. What in the world is going on with Ralf Schumacher? Why is this guy such a Delphic oracle? This was Ralf Schumacher saying that Doohan's career is over. He said that Max is on his way out, and everybody's quoting every. I have no idea. People wouldn't have walked across the street to hear his hot take on something for 15 years, and now all of a sudden he's a Delphic Oracle. I have no idea why.
So wait, the story is that he's going out, that Verstappen's going to Alpine? Well, I'm not sure what I'm following this headline.
No, this is just saying that that Doohan's next up to lose his job.
Oh, and Ralph Schumacher said that everybody's going to write it.
Yeah, and everybody around the headline. Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't understand it. If somebody knows why all of a sudden Ralph Schumacher is like the sage F1 voice and Delphic Oracle of F1, please let me know, because I watched his entire racing career. I have no idea. The press hated him back then. I have no idea why all of a sudden he gets all of this, I don't know, all this media time, and everyone's quoting his every single word. I have no idea.
Although, before you go on, I will say I did love the Flavio Briatore part of Drive to Survive when they asked Carlos Sainz, like, why didn't you sign? First of all, I loved all the drama of him not signing with Williams. Beautiful. Netflix, nicely done. And then they're like, he's like, Flavio called. I love that. Like, if people have been listening to this and are like, wow, who is this Flavio person they go on and all about?
You just found out.
I'm glad that they did that for me. It was perfect.
Because we prefaced that up front in the podcast just before the series came out, and we sort of reminded veterans, but we told newer listeners who Flavio was, right? And then I'm sure they went and watched Driver's Side and said, oh, yeah, okay. That guy. Well, okay. Next up, David Coulthard, motorbike accident, as Amanda Holden, of all people, revealed the crash. Way to go, Amanda. Who knew? They're friends, been friends for a long time.
Oh,
who knew? And finally, police raid house and make arrests after seeing TikTok video posted by 2 Aussie sport fans. You got to love the Aussies. You got to love them.
TikTok?
They had high-vis vests on with security written on the back of them, and they walked through, got through the gates, and were walking right next to the track and watching the race, walking around posing as security guards. And they posted the videos, and the police went and arrested them.
Okay, kids. Here's the thing. I am old enough that this is not a thing for me, because I'm like, that never, like, I'm like 3 days later, somebody's like, oh, were you going to post those pictures for your vacation? I'm like, oh, you made people want to say that? Like, it never crosses my mind to do something like this.
Right.
People, why would you do this? Here, I'm going to do something very illegal. Let me put it on TikTok. That seems dumb. Why do people do this?
Yeah, silly.
It's not, I wouldn't have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids. I would have gotten away with it if I hadn't posted it on social media myself.
Right. I know. It's crazy.
Don't do it. I don't understand.
All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. That's what we think about the news. But you let us know what you think about the Yuki Liam swap, the Red Bull Young Driver Program, V10s coming back, Aston Martin selling part of the team, or anything else you want to let us know about. Just put your comments in the post and let us know. If you have any questions, you can go to the top right menu of our website at theparkformay.com. It says mailbag. You can click on that. You can leave us a question. We'll answer them on the podcast. A huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, like the fine folks that joined us live tonight and were chatting with us all along during the podcast, and our audience. Thank you so much for your support. We could not and would not do the podcast without you. If you watch the podcast on our YouTube channel, do the right thing, okay? Hit the subscribe, hit the bell icon, hit the like, all right? Because that's the kind of crap you got to do with YouTube to make your YouTube videos show up in a search. It's ridiculous. The flaming hoops. You know, they just talk about, I just asked a simple question on YouTube. You know, I'm curious why my podcast videos aren't showing up in a YouTube search. So, well, you know, YouTube could be many things, and one of them could be your keywords are not right. Well,
Park for May podcast.
Formula One race review, Chinese Grand Prix review. Really? are you serious? You know, but they never tell you how to game their algorithm, of course, but it's just all the various reasons you suck and you can't get it in search. So there you go. Anyway, all right. So if you like the podcast, give us some love.
They're run by Helmo, basically.
Basically, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like Helmet Marco Helmet running that thing. And we'll be back next week. It's going to be the Japanese Grand Prix review. That's exciting. And then we'll come back with Grace. And until that time next week, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you in 2 weeks.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.